Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with the FX Market Insight for Monday, the 23rd of September. All right, now a little bit of an odd week, I should say, last week. Now look at the analysis, the hourly perspective. It's really been diffused, and I mean, there's not much here happening in the dollar pairs just at the moment, with various geopolitical events impacting the dollar, and that lack of clear, bias from the Fed. But one thing that does stand out clearly, and I was mentioning this last week, Kiwi, right? The little Kiwi, often sort of the last trade you sort of think about, but at the moment, long term, it's cruising to the downside and has very good technical setup across all time frames. So it's a pretty easy one to sort of recognize and start to focus on. Now, as we start the week, today's market conditions, well, we've got normal market liquidity, but we do have a Japanese holiday, and that should make the Asian session pretty dull, I would suspect. And we've still got those two core main drivers. That Saudi Arabia-Iran issue is still simmering, but it's died down very quickly last week, so I've just left that off. There were a couple of little things. If I just bring you back, actually, let me just clear that screen. There's a little bit of odd activity, actually. Let me just show you the news. And a lot of this doesn't sort of correlate with what was going on. So just at the moment, there was talk of, if I just scroll down a bit, hopefully I'll find it. There was a bit of a extra information about the US-China trade issue, and it was talking about, well, the Chinese don't want to go and check out any farms in Montana or whatever the hell was going on, and that sort of decoupled a little bit the whole US-China trade talks, and that doesn't seem to be the case, and the dollar yuan has gapped significantly. So just across the board here on the news itself, I mean, a lot of the news here is just rubbish, right? There's no clear indication of anything else going on. So don't get too caught up in any sort of fresh news. Looks like the Donald has stayed off the tweets for the weekend, so there's nothing weird there. But this is what I was talking about. Like, if the US-China trade talks were going a bit sideways, this thing should be going up. But you know what? It's gapped a couple of 100 points to the downside. So something weird's going on that we can't yet see, or that hasn't been yet reported. So just be aware. I wouldn't be surprised to see this would match up with a quite a positive outlook for US-China trade talks. Now, the dollar index, I mean, I know the media struggles when there's not a lot of news out, but this thing is just trading in a range. It's not going up. It's not going down. It's really not going anywhere just at the moment. All right, so that's what we have to keep an eye on. So you come back to look at the major currency pairs, all right, and we are starting to see the Aussie just roll over a bit, but if I widen that out a touch, you'll see that it's still within pretty much recent ranges. Here's the Kiwi. Here's a longer-term resistance line up here towards sort of 63.90. Short-term, though, it's just drifting lower, right? There's not a hell of a lot going on. But this is going to be a very important thing because we do have the RBNZ interest rate decision in a few days. Right? We'll have to look for that for more information on what's going on in the Kiwi. Dollar yen traded sideways through the short-term support line and breakdown through the cloud. So, you know what? It's not really going anywhere. Is there tension, Saudi Arabia, Iran? Yes, there is. But is the safe haven trade back on is what I'm trying to get to? I don't really know. Right? This is like just a little bit painful. We did have the euro sort of just dip down below 110.40 once again, just through that really short-term support trend line. And you know what? There's not a lot of interest. I mean, this is what's happening in the market because we don't have any sort of clear sentiment from the central banks, and the economic numbers have been sort of brushed aside because of all the geopolitical events. We're starting to see like 20 or 30-point moves, and that seems to be a big move these days, right? So it's really frustrating. Just hang in there. These things should clear themselves up. Now, sterling, well, you know what? It's still cruising to the top side, but on the hourlies, it is starting to drift sideways as there's a bit of a lack of extra Brexit news. And dollar CAD, well, it's just drifting sideways despite weaker retail sales figures on Friday. Probably saw it spike up here to the high, but straight back into the range as oil is the major focus there. All right, so Mondays, right? This is the key part to getting yourself prepared for the week. Obviously, seeing where all your technical levels are. Come across the board here, you check out your analysis. So you can sort of just generally work out what's going on there. And sometimes, like today, it just doesn't match up. But being consistent across this approach will get you ready for an opportunity that does spark up. Now, the last week of the month, it's notoriously pretty sparse as far as economic numbers go. And usually it's full of central bankers talking, right? And today, or this week, is no different. If I just scroll down here, you'll see that there's a bit of Eurozone data to start with. We've got Draghi speaking, Kuroda, RBA Governor Lowe. This is probably the key event for the week, the RBNZ, especially with Kiwi on clear downward sentiment. You come back down here into the sort of getting into the second half of the week. We've got Carney speaking, FOMC member Bullard, Clarita, MPC member Saunders, and Qualls there down the bottom there as well. So we've got a whole heap of stuff. The big or the directional US numbers are later in the week. All right. I mean, we do have the final GDP numbers up here, but you know what? They're pretty much close to the mark 9 times out of 10. So I'm not holding my breath on that. So early doors this week, Kiwi's got to be a major focus as we go through that. But we have a bunch of Eurozone numbers. Euro is sort of, it's heading south, but it just doesn't have that momentum. So maybe we get something out of these numbers here is what I'm sort of looking for. The RBNZ, well, we have those US consumer confidence numbers. They could give us a little bit of a tickle as well. But this RBNZ interest rate decision now, it's a very loose event. Kiwi liquidity is at a premium around these releases, but hopefully that should give us, that extra clearer direction. From the outlook, just looking at the overall analysis, you'd have to think like everyone's pretty confident these guys are bearish, and if anything, potentially looking for a surprise cut. They did surprise us with half a basis point cut last month, so we'll see how that goes. But you know what, guys, really, I mean, the dollar is lacking that sort of serious momentum. And when it does, it really diffuses the rest of the majors. Okay, we are looking for the dollar to give us some sort of direction at the moment. It's sort of like in no man's land. So if anything, keep an eye on the Kiwi and definitely the Euro to start the week. All right, guys, that's it for me to kick things off. Have a good trade week. Cheerio.